Parshas Bamidbar. Parshas Bamidbar, we'll see incredible how it ties into Shulish and current events, and more amazing the Haftorah. Parshas Bamidbar is always read the week of Chag Matan Torah. So what's the connection between the book of Bamidbar, Sefer Bamidbar, Parshas Bamidbar, and Chag Matan Torah? If you look in Parshas Yisro, we're going to read Sunday morning, if we're awake. The Torah keeps repeating that the Torah was given in the Midbar. Again, in the Midbar, in the Midbar, in the Midbar. Parshas Bamidbar always is read the week of Chag Matan Torah. What's this obsession with the Torah being given where? In the Midbar. In the Midbar. Strange. The answer is that a world without Torah, Abraham, is a barren wilderness.
Sure.
And only through the Koach HaTorah we can turn the barren Midbar into a productive Chag HaBikurim. Shulish is called Chag HaBikurim, the yontif of fertility, delicious fruits and veggies, vegetation, Chag HaKotzir, the harvest. So only through the Koach HaTorah can a person take an empty, barren wilderness and turn it into what? A Chag HaBikurim, a Chag HaKotzir, a Gan Eden. But without Torah, we're left with a barren wilderness. That's one of the explanations of why the Torah was given Dafka Bamidbar, and the Torah keeps repeating it. Bamidbar opens up, again, this Parsha is always read the week of Matan Torah, lift up the heads of all Adas B'nai Yisrael. Doesn't God know how many Jews they are, Shelley? Why have a census? Why have a census? Doesn't God know how many Jews they are? Rashi says, because he loves us, therefore he's always counting us. When I was a kid, I used to love my baseball cards. Even though I knew how many they were, I kept counting them. And people that love their money, even though they know how much money they have, they count them. So since God loves us, says Rashi, to demonstrate that love, he counts us. Now the end of Vayikra ended with what? We are counting days. Sfirat HaOmer. And the beginning of Bamidbar is we are counting days to get close to Him from Pesach to Shavuos, and He is counting us. For that magic moment of Matan Torah. So we count days, God counts us to demonstrate how much He loves us, and He can't wait what? To be reunited, and it feels so good.
That's why it's the honeymoon. That's why it's the holiday.
The holiday of the honeymoon, Chag Matan Torah, is the wedding. The canopy, Kof Aleim Har Kegigis, God lifted the mountain over our heads, right, Avraham? That was the chuppah. That was the chuppah. Interesting. Now the Torah goes on here and speaks about at Rosh Kol Adas B'nai Yisrael, lift up the heads of the Adas B'nai Yisrael. Adat from the word aid. Witnesses. We are God's witnesses. The J witnesses, they're phony witnesses. The Jewish people became God's witnesses when, Shelley? At Matan Torah. And each Jew became a Rosh. How it ties in with Matan Torah, this Parsha? Every Jew in God's eyes is a Rosh. What does a Rosh mean? A chief, a head. All Kol Adas B'nai Yisrael. All of us are what? In God's eyes, a chief. Even though you're not the CFO, right? In Hashem's eyes, each and every one of us is unique and special, and therefore the census demonstrates that no one can do it my way. We all have a unique mission. And just like our fingerprints are unique, our mission in life is unique, and no one can do it my way. That's the explanation. And this is right before Matan Torah. Each and every Jew counts. And the Ramban says each and every Jew is chashuv and precious to God. So therefore, this story about the census is given always the week of what? Of Chag Matan Torah. Now the Torah goes on here and mentions the census. Now we know the Torah is what? God's GPS, Abraham. Torah is not ancient history. So why do we need to know the exact number? Okay, the census to demonstrate that He loves us. Okay, but why do we need to be so exact in the numbers of each tribe? This took place over 3,330 years ago. Avram, why be so specific? The Torah is so economical in words, and here the Torah mentions each exact tribe, how many people they had. What's the message for the year 2018? Because the Torah only tells me what I need to know for the here and now. The Torah gives the sons of Benjamin 35,000. And right next to Benjamin, it gives the census done, which is strange. All the other brothers, the census, the tribes are given Abraham in their chronological order. Reuven, Shimon, Levi. When it gets to Benjamin and Dan, the Torah goes out of sequence, Rav Nachum. The Torah puts Benji, the youngest brother, next to the census of what? Of Dan, one of the older brothers. Why does the Torah Yehuda break protocol? Right, all the other brothers, their census are listed in the order of their birth. It comes to Benji and Dan, the Torah is what? Masha, out of order. Fasten your seatbelts, Masha, for this. If you check in Parshas Vayigash, Benjamin came down to Mitzrayim with 10 healthy sons. Dan had one sick child, one child that was handicapped. Now, I'm supposing, how do you think Dan felt, David? My kid brother with the runny nose, Benji, has 10 healthy sons. And Dan, one of the older tribes, has one child who's handicapped. Talmud says he was handicapped. How do you think he must have felt? God, it's not fair. Little did he know that 210 years later, Abraham, Benjamin's 10 healthy sons would give him 35,000 great-grandchildren. Dan, who had one handicapped son, 210 years later, how many grandchildren did he have? 62,000. And therefore the Torah puts them side by side. What's the message, Masha? You can never know. Things are always going according to plan. Not my plan, his plan. Dan had no way of knowing, God, it's not fair. My kid brother with the runny nose, right? Little Benji, 10 healthy sons. He's done as one of the older children. One child that's handicapped. But little did he know, Masha, 210 years from that time, Benji's 10 healthy sons would give him 35,000 grandchildren. Dan's sick child must have eaten a lot of Viagra. Had 62,000 great-grandchildren in the same amount of time. Rav Avram, what a powerful message that there is a plan. This is a message for the 2018, right? God, why is this happening? Why is that happening? We can never know because we're here for such a short time. We can't see the whole picture, Masha. We see a tiny piece of the puzzle. But the puzzle has billions of pieces. So this is the message why the Torah writes the census and why it puts Benjamin next to Dan, even though other brothers are written in biological, chronological order, and these two brothers are not, to teach that what? Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, David, there is a plan. Things are going according to plan. Not my plan, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan, with a powerful message. And here the Torah keeps repeating Shemot, 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 over and over again. The Torah is so economical, Yehuda. There isn't even one extra letter in the Torah. There's exactly 304,805 letters in the Torah scroll. If you don't believe it, you can count. And here the Torah keeps repeating Shemot, Shemot, Otpam, names, 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 names. Why? Says the great Nachmanides that a person's tafkid in life is contained what? In his name. Your tafkid in life, and therefore throughout the Bible, who names the children, Masha? The mother. The mama, not the papas. So Or Chaim HaKodesh explains, because since the name of a child defines the mission of that soul, and women are more in touch with their soul. I'm a soul lady. So they're more qualified to look at the baby and define the mission, which is contained what? In the name. And therefore, throughout Tanakh, it's the women that name the children. So your tafkid in life is contained in your Hebrew name, says the great Nachmanides or Chaim. Therefore, it's very important to go by your Hebrew name. Therefore, it's so important to go by your Hebrew name. You know, there's a custom when you daven Shmon Esrei at the end, you're supposed to say a verse in Tanakh that contains what? Your name. You know that custom?
Yes.
So my name is Ephraim Avraham. Aleph Mem. So I say the pasuk in Nehemiah chapter 9, Atu Hashem Elokim Asher Becharta Ba'Avram. You are the Lord God that chose Avram. So my name is there, and also Aleph Mem. The Shloach Kodesh says, why is that? Right? It's in the back of the ArtScroll Siddur. Your name with the Hebrew initials from a pasuk and verse. When you say that, it's a segula that you will not forget your name on the day of death. You understand that? Very strange. Very strange. Because we know that a heavenly court follows a human court, or vice versa. If in a heavenly court, human court, what's the first question the judge says? State your name. So if that's true in the physical human court, it's certainly true in the heavenly court. After 120 Avi, God will say, state your name. So we might be confused, terrified. So we say that verse in the Tanakh that contains our name, we will what? We'll remember our name. What is it? Hocus pocus? Says the great Or Chaim HaKadosh, Api Kabbalah. When God is saying, state your name, what's he really asking, David? Mission. Did you live up to your mission contained in your name? Now, who can say yes? So what are we going to say, Yosef? God, you're asking me my name. That means you're asking me who I am. You're not asking me if I'm a lawyer, chief cook and bottle washer, an Indian chief. When you're asking my name, what is my essence? My essence is a pasuk in your Tanakh. I'm going to state the verse in Tanakh from each Nehemiah chapter 9. That's who I am. I don't know if I did my mission, God, but if you want to know who I am a pasuk in your Tanakh. So when God hears that, Masha, hopefully go easy on us. If that's who I am, I'm a verse in your Torah, God. So that's who I am. So perhaps that'll be good enough. And therefore, we say that verse at the end of Shemon Esrei. That is our, who are we? Avi, we're a pasuk in God's Tanakh. That's who we are. Abraham, you have the same like me. Aleph Mem, and Abraham behind you. Atu Hashem Elokim Hashem Chata Ba'Avram. Right? That's who I am.
Ephraim spells with
Ephraim, Aleph Mem. Aleph Mem at the end. Same initials like Abraham. My name is also Abraham. But the initials, the beginning and the end. A verse that contains the beginning of your name and the end. Aleph Mem. Now, the Torah gives the names of the princes that helped Moshe do the census. Now, why should I care what their names were? Torah is GPS, Masha. The Torah is not what? History. Look what their names are. Shideur, Shadaior. God is my light. You light up my life. So this rabbi's tafkid in what? In life, Shideur, is to advertise that you are my light. You are my light. God is the light of the world. And the other rabbi was named Tzur Shaddai. Tzur Shaddai. The Almighty is my rock. I am a rock. And the other rabbi was named Achiezer. What does Achiezer mean? My brother helps me, or I help my brother. And the other rabbi, Ammishaddai. What does Ammishaddai mean? My people belong to the Almighty. Ami, my people Shaddai. What's in a name? What's in a name?
They don't make them like that.
What? These names are used today. These are Achiezer. Now, the prince of Shevet Gad, his name was Ben Deuel. Not Ben Cartwright. Ben Deuel. That's what it says in the Bamidbar 1, Pasuk 14. The prince of Gad was Ben Deuel. That's in Bamidbar 1:14. But if you go to Bamidbar 1, if you go to Bamidbar 2, verse 14, that same prince of God is called Ben Reuel. Now, it's not a typo, God forbid. Why, in the beginning of the Parsha, the prince of God is called Ben Deuel, and later on, that same prince is called Ben Reuel. And why tell me about it? What's the message for the year 2018, Avram Brokowitz? Torah is not history. It's GPS, God's personal assistant. Fasten your seatbelts. What does Ben Deuel mean? Deuel means to know God. Deuel. What does Reuel mean? To love God. To know, I'm not making this up. To know Him is to love Him. That song was written by Jack Sprecher, not Sprecher, Sprecher in 1958. Jewish guy. And perhaps he got it from here. Maddie, who knows? Deuel means to know God. Reuel means to love God. Shelley, once you know God, then you love Him. Isn't that amazing? And that is the message of why we need to know what their names were. Isn't that incredible? Bamidbar 1, verse 14, he's called Ben Deuel, to know God. And later on, in Bamidbar 2, verse 14, that same guy, is not prince, called Ben Reuel, from Reut, to be God's lover. Pretty interesting. Now here the Torah goes on and mentions that each tribe had a flag. Each tribe had a flag. And the flag of each tribe was the same identical color of what? In the Choshen Mishpat, each tribe had a precious stone, ruby, sapphire, diamond, aquamarine, with the name of the tribe engraved. And that same color that the high priest wore the breastplate of Reuben, Shimon, Levi, that was the same color that what? Of the flag. So Rashi said, what was one of the purposes of the flag? Let's say you got lost. You got fablunget in the Midbar. You come from Naphtali, or you come from Dan, you got fablunget, Shelley. So you looked at the flag, and you remembered, the color of the Choshen. Each one knew their color, so they looked at the flag, was the same color as the breastplate color, so the people who got fablunget knew where to go. Each tribe is unique. Each tribe had their own flag, their own color. Says Nachmanides, why? Couldn't there just be one? There are at least 12 different ways to get to God. And each tribe had their own nusach, their own flavor, their own personality, their own color. No one can say, my way, the highway. The Ramban compares it to 12 spokes of a wheel. A wheel has 12 spokes, but they all meet where? In the center. And therefore all the tribes what? Camped around the Mishkan. Now there's incredible Rashi over here. How did the tribes camp around the Mishkan? Says Rashi, when Yaakov was dying on his deathbed, he positioned the sons around his coffin. And the way he positioned his sons around his coffin, Reuben, you're on this side, Shimon, you're on this side, Levi on this side. The way Yaakov positioned his sons, he told them how to carry him from Cairo to Hebron. That's the same way the tribes positioned themselves around what? The Mishkan. What an incredible Rashi. What's Rashi saying? That Yaakov's body was as holy as a Mishkan. Shelley, you getting this? Not his soul, but even his body. Because Rashi says the way he told his sons to position themselves around his coffin, in that way did the tribes position themselves around the Mishkan, symbolizing that Yaakov's body had the Kedusha of what, Avi? Yaakov. Of a Mishkan. That's just incredible. The soul, of course, but the body of a tzaddik should have the Kedusha of a Mishkan? Yes, that's Rashi's point. Incredible. How a Jew can sanctify his body to be as holy as what? As a neshama, as a mishkan. What a powerful message over here. And the Torah goes on here and mentions, the Torah says, these are the offspring of Aaron and Moshe. But it only lists what? The offspring of Aaron. So Rashi wonders, you promised to tell me the offspring of Aaron and Moshe, and you only list the offspring of what? Of Aaron. And you don't mention what? Moshe's sons. So Rashi says, why are Moshe's sons called what? Why are Aaron's sons called what? Moshe's son. So Rashi says, only Aaron's sons are mentioned, even though the Torah promises to mention Moshe's children. They're not mentioned, only Aaron's. Says Rashi, Fi shalamdan Torah, Melamed shekola melamed et chavero Torah. If you teach your friend Torah, it's like you what? Gave birth to him. So since Moshe Rabbeinu what? Taught Aaron's children Torah, Yosef, it's like what? His children. Moshe's children were out to lunch. It's tragedy, but a lot of times a shoemaker's children go barefoot. That's the way it is. A shoemaker's children go barefoot. Moshe's kids were out to lunch. They came from a broken home. Sarah, remember that. Moshe divorced his wife. And therefore Aaron and Miriam were upset and they spoke against him. The kids didn't turn out. They come from a broken home, Avi. Moshe divorced his wife, Rashi says. And then Miriam and Aaron were upset. And sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you expected. But anyway, Aaron's children are considered Moshe's children because Moshe taught them Torah.
Rabbi Sprecher?
Yes?
Wasn't Moshe told to separate from his wife?
No, so that's a whole different discussion. He did it on his own. And God agreed afterwards. That Tosfos and Shabbos asked the question, how could Aaron and Miriam speak against Moshe if God ordered him to divorce his wife? So Tosfos says, no way. God could never do that. God can never. Shalom Bayis trumps everything, David. God could never order him to do that. Tosfos explains that he did it on his own. And afterwards God said, well, that's the way you want to go. But he didn't have to do it. Okay, so he could have had a WhatsApp. But God never told him to do that. He did it on his own, and God only agreed after the fact. So Aaron and Miriam said, you didn't have to do that. Because the Mishnah says in Sota, the way a person wants to go, he's led. If you don't want to go that way, God would never have told you to do that, because we know Shalom Bayis what? How do you know that? There's a terrible trump Saul. Because there's a negative commandment, you're not allowed to erase God's name. It's a terrible sin. But for the Sota, next week's Parsha, God says to make Shalom Bayis, lovey-dovey, God says, erase my name. Erase my name if that's what it takes to be lovey-dovey, hubby in life. So that trumps all. So therefore God could never tell him to divorce his wife. So anyway, you see from here, if you teach somebody Torah, it's like you give birth to him. Isn't that incredible? And therefore, Aaron's kids are called what? The offspring of what? Of Moshe Rabbeinu. Of Moshe Rabbeinu. And this connects beautifully, beautifully. Ruth is always read on Shavuot, right? And this Parsha Bamidbar is always read the week of Shavuot. What's the connection? Many connections. One connection is, if you look at the end of the book of Ruth, Ruth has a baby boy. Right? She marries Boaz, they have a baby boy. But the end of the book of Ruth says, Yulad ben Lenomi. Hope it's not a typo, David. It should have said Yulad ben Lut. But no. The Navi says Yulad ben Lenomi. What's going on? She taught him. Fits in beautifully, Sarah. This is my Chiddush, now it's your Chiddush too.
I like it.
Since Naomi taught him Torah, because Nebuchadnezzar's father kicked the bucket on honeymoon night, so therefore it's considered that she gave birth to him. So it says Yulad ben Naomi. Just like it says here that Aaron's kids are Moshe's kids. Wow. Wow. You teach someone Torah, you give birth to him. Powerful message. Yulat ben Lenomi and not Yulat ben Lerut. Pretty interesting, huh? Now, it's just incredible. The Levites were counted separately because they are God's honor guard. The rest of the Jews were counted from 20. The Levites were counted separately, Avi ben Chodesh Ramala. So the Torah says in Bamidbar 3:16, Moshe counted them by the mouth of God. So what's bothering Rashi, Sarah? If Moshe counted them, what's by the mouth of God? Moshe was commanded to count the Levites from 1 month old. You ever hear the expression, don't be more religious than God? Know where it comes from, Maddie? Bamidbar 3:16. God tells Moshe, go in to Mr. and Mrs. Levi's tent and count the babies. God orders him. Moshe said, Lifnei God, how could I do that? Maybe Mrs. Levi doesn't have her shaitel on. Maybe she's wearing a nightgown. God, I can't do it. Rashi saying this. Looks like Moshe was being more frum than God. God says, go count the Levite babies. He said, I can't do it. I knock on the tent, Mrs. Levi doesn't have her shaitel or a tichel on. It's not tznius, God. So God says, okay, you stand outside the tent, and I will go in. The Shekhinah will go in and tell you how many babies are in this tent. Quintuplets, quadruplets. So therefore it says that Moshe counted them on the mouth of God. Moshe stood outside of the tent because he didn't want to go in, right? Maybe it's Yichud, the husband wasn't home. He's very religious, even though God sent him in. And the Shekhinah, Kaviyochel, the Shekhinah went in and counted the babies, and a heavenly voice came out, Baskol Yotzem in oil, and says, this amount of babies in the tent, and therefore Moshe wrote it down. What's the message? What's the message? What? What's the message? Don't be more religious than God? What? That this world is a partnership. You do your best, and God will do the rest. Isn't that the message, Yosef? Only if and when you do your best, only then will what? God do the rest. Right? A powerful message. Now we get to the Haftorah, and I couldn't make this up. The Haftorah from the book of Hosea, 2,800 years ago. But of course he's talking about what, David? Current events. He says something incredible. You get home, you look it up. Hosea chapter 2. Hosea chapter 2, he says, right before Mashiach comes. Hosea 2:2. Hosea, Perik Bet, Pasuk Bet, Hosea 2. This week's Haftorah. It's always read the week of Chag Matan Torah. He says, all of the Jewish people will gather themselves together, v'olu min haaretz, and they'll come up from all the corners of the earth. Ki godol yom Yisrael. Great is the day of Yisrael. Before Mashiach comes, all the Jews will gather, and they'll come up from all the corners of the earth. I come from Brooklyn. My wife comes from Isfahan, Iran. The Jews are coming back, Shelley, from India, Ethiopia, Afghanistan. The Jews are coming. How did Hosea know this 2,800 years ago? I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Avram, Hosea. All of Minaretz from all corners of the earth have come up, because great is the day of Yisrael. What does Yisrael mean? Yisrael. God will replant us back in the land. After 2,000 years, God will replant us back in the land. When he said this, the Jewish people were not in exile. When Hosea said this, what do you mean we'll come back from all the corners of the earth? The Jews were not in exile. Shelley, when Hosea said the temple was standing in all of its glory, all the Jews were here, God didn't have to replant us. Obviously, Hosea was speaking about what? Now. All the prophets of Tanakh are speaking now. The Gemara Megillah said there were millions of prophets, millions. Only 48 are recorded, you, because those millions spoke for what? Ancient history. I don't care. But the 48 speaking now. Great is the day when Yisrael, God will replant us back in Eretz Yisrael. This Haftorah is always read around Yom Yerushalayim. All of our incredible achievements of this country. Military, scientific achievements, high-tech, low-tech, smartphone, dumb phone, Waze, Wix, cherry tomato. We invented it all. Yisrael, says the Navi, I will replant you back in your land. And there'll be incredible achievements in all what? Areas of human endeavor. Eretz Yisrael. And then the end of the Haftorah, every morning you put on your tefillin, right? What verse do you say? Hosea. God says, I'll marry you to me forever. I'll marry you in righteousness, and I'll marry you in faith, and you will come to know God. 3 times. We put on God's wedding ring every morning. And why do we wrap 3 times? Why do we wrap the tefillin 3 times? And we say this verse in this week's chapter, Hosea, chapter 2, verse 21 and 22.
There's just the 3 ways that
marry you, I will marry you forever. I will love you forever. And what took place on Matan Torah? God married us. So it's very appropriate to read this Haftorah, David, which is always read the week of Shavuos. Shavuos, God married us. And the prophet says, when Mashiach comes, God will remarry us. There'll be a honeymoon. And he says here, I'll take you back to Midbar Sinai. Look at, you get home, Hosea 2, verse 16. I will take you back, v'dibarti aliba, and I'll lovey-dovey, bring back the good old days. God will take us back in the Midbar Sinai for a honeymoon, and he will what? We'll have a new marriage ceremony. That's what it says.
What if the wife prefers the wife?
What?
What if the wife prefers the wife?
This is before Chag Matan Torah, because Matan Torah, God married us. But then we had a lover's quarrel for 2,000 years. Right? But now we're back. God says, lovey-dovey time. The best part of breaking up is making up. Who said that? Hosea, not before Neil Sedaka. Hosea says it. It's incredible. Reb Nachum, you getting this? God tells us to go. Right? God said we had a lover's quarrel. We broke up for 2,000 years. But we're going to make up better than ever. Better than ever, God says. I'll take you back to the Midbar. V'dibarti aliba. And I will speak to her heart. Who's her? Us. V'dibarti aliba. Lovey-dovey. Better than before. This time it'll be la'olam. Unlike the first 2 times, there was a lover's quarrel. First temple destroyed. Second. But the third temple will be la'olam. Forever. Wow. So the 3 rings on the tefillin reminds us that what? The Keshet Tishvuos, the eternal honeymoon. Yes? Nasa v'nishma. We said Nasa v'nishma, we said, right? God went shopping the Torah. Medrash in Zoysa Bracha, Shelley, before he came to us, he went shopping the Torah. The UNESCO, UN, they all turned him down. How does it feel to be rejected 70 times? All the nations of the world. Didn't God know he's going to be rejected? So why did he do it? To give us chizuk. Chizuk, if you're rejected, don't give up. God says, I was rejected, I didn't give up. Look how much he loves us. He writes about himself, David, that he was rejected. To give us chizuk, not to be what? Even though we are rejected. Not to fall into yiush. How do you say yiush in English? Despair, depression. So God writes about himself, he was rejected by all the nations. Nishkefelech, how do you say nishkefelech? Keep on trucking. Nishkefelech, keep on trucking. Until what? You're accepted. How much he loves us. He's willing to write about himself that he was rejected. The most rejected figure in the Bible is whom? Finally came to the Jews. He said, Yidden have something good for you. The first question the Jew asked is, Gershom, how much does it cost? God said the Torah is free. So he said, God, if it's free, we'll take two. Not a joke. They're written in the oral. If it's free, we'll take two, right? Torah sheb'ksav, Torah sheb'al peh, right? If it's free, we'll take two. Now, the two Torahs, Yishalmi Peah says that God loves the oral Torah more than the written Torah of the two Torahs. But it doesn't say why. Otherwise, I'd be unemployed, right? It just said that God loves the oral Torah more. So my humble opinion, because the written Torah is written on animal skin, but the oral Torah is written on my skin, or my neshama. Isn't my soul, Gershom, more valuable than animal skin? The written Torah is animal parchment, but the oral Torah, I've got you under my skin. The oral Torah is on my neshama. Isn't that more precious to God than animal skin? Another explanation. It says in the written Torah, no one from Ammon and Moab can marry into the Jewish people. According to the written Torah, Maddie, Mashiach can never be born. Because it says nobody from Moab and Ammon can marry Jewish people. The written Torah, Boaz could never marry Ruth. Hey, if they don't get married, there's no Messiah. But thank God we have an oral Torah, Avi. Tractate Yevamos, page Ayin Vav. Took my spirulina this morning. Yevamos 76. It says that what? It means only the male Moabites cannot marry the Jewish people. But no prohibition against a female Moabite, saved by the oral Torah. So now Boaz can marry Ruth because she's a female Moabite, and Mashiach can be born. So therefore God loves the oral Torah more, Mashiach, because without the oral Torah, God has no Messiah.